Hello and welcome to the Chelsea Sunsport YouTube channel for this week's episode of the Chelsea Files. Last week you had Chelsea correspondent Dan King talking to you about all the things going on behind the scenes at Stamford Bridge, the stories behind the stories, and this week you've got myself, Lloyd Canfield, Chelsea FC reporter at The Sun, bringing you all the news you need to know about Chelsea on this fine Wednesday. First thing we're going to discuss is Stamford Bridge and the Chelsea ownership. About a year ago, in the autumn of last year, there were reports that there was a pretty big rift going on between Eghbali and Todd Boehly, and now things have developed a lot for Chelsea since then. The Club World Cup, the Conference League win, things are much better for the club, and it's a lot easier for those at the top to get on. I'm sure you can understand when things are going well, when the team are winning. It's easier to kind of work things out, for them to talk, for them to agree on things. One of those things that they have disagreed on a lot of the time has been the stadium, Stamford Bridge. And that's because Eghbali has preferred to stay at Stamford Bridge, redevelop the site somehow. Todd Boehly's been keen on moving away from Stamford Bridge and building a whole new stadium similar to kind of what Spurs have done, probably in Earl's Court, not too far away from the current Stamford Bridge site. It wouldn't be a million miles away, but a lot of fans would prefer to stay at Stamford Bridge, I think it's fair to say. And the Liverpool game was a reminder of the kind of atmosphere that Stamford Bridge still has. In a lot of ways, Stamford Bridge is one of the few remaining kind of great Premier League stadiums that's packed full of history. So many teams now have redeveloped or built new stadiums, and they've kind of lost a bit of the soul of the team in that sense and what it means to the fans. Stamford Bridge means so much to so many people, and I think to see that be demolished or to be moved somewhere else would upset a lot of people. But also there's the argument from Todd Boehly's side that a new stadium brings in more revenue, bigger crowds, more money, maybe a little bit less atmosphere, but maybe even a better atmosphere if they can do it right. The Spurs atmosphere is not bad at all. I know some of you won't like to hear that for our London rivals, but the Spurs atmosphere, to be fair to them, is pretty good most of the time, especially those kind of European nights. And to be honest, the current atmosphere at Stamford Bridge is something that Maresca's spoken about a lot. It's not the best, to be honest. Sometimes it feels flat. The Liverpool game, in fairness, was one of the best atmospheres we've seen. Even Reece James came out and spoke about how good the atmosphere was in that game on his Instagram story. Those two finally seem to kind of be coming to an agreement on a lot of things, and it doesn't look as though they're all of a sudden trying to buy each other out. But such is the nature of Chelsea that one thing can kind of happen and all of a sudden everything changes. That's how Chelsea is at the moment with these guys in charge. So in March, Todd Boehly basically told Bloomberg that they will either be aligned on a stadium plan or they'll go different ways, but they currently need to flesh that plan out. And in August, it emerged that there was still no decision on the project and what they were going to do with Stamford Bridge. And that's when the Earl's Court Development Company, also known as the ECDC, submitted a planning permission application with its own vision for the Earl's Court site. If their plans are approved, and most people are expecting some news on this before the end of the year, then Chelsea would have no option other than to develop Stamford Bridge, because there would be plans for the site already that are not for a redevelopment of Stamford Bridge. And whatever the outcome, ultimately, the two of them, Eghbali and Todd Boehly, need to be able to work together, or this could be another ownership that still ends in a messy divorce, even though at the moment it looks to be going so well. So let us know in the comments, would you prefer for Stamford Bridge to be redeveloped and given more capacity to get more fans in, or would you prefer a move to a new site somewhere else, somewhere like Earl's Court? Which side of the coin, which side of the divorce do you fall on? Which parent are you going to be staying with? Is it Eghbali to stay at Stamford Bridge and redevelop the site, or will you be going with Todd Boehly and will you be looking to move to a new stadium somewhere else, similar to what Spurs and West Ham have done in recent years? One of the other big stories that emerged over the international break in the Chelsea files, which you can read on thesun.co.uk/football as well, is that Chelsea actually missed out on signing Antoine Semenyo 6 years ago now, when he was at Bristol City. He was a Bristol City player, but he was on loan at Newport County. And Chelsea reportedly, on an article on the Sun website, I went digging through the archives, the Chelsea archives, to see what was going on all those years ago. It feels like all those years ago now, 6 years ago. I would have been 18, just heading off to university, and now here we are. But Antoine Semenyo, he was a Bristol City player on loan at Newport County, and since then obviously has gone on to become one of the best wingers in the Premier League. He's arguably probably this month's flavour of the month for the Premier League. He's been absolutely electric for Bournemouth on the wing. Like I said, probably one of the best wingers in the league at the moment. And Bournemouth, if they were to sell him, there's been a lot of interest in him from rumoured teams like Chelsea and Manchester United. He would surely bring in a hefty fee for Bournemouth, probably within the range of 75 to 85 million pounds. His new contract has reportedly got a release clause in it, although we're currently not sure exactly what that release clause is. But yeah, so 6 years ago, 2019, Antoine Semenyo was on loan at Newport County, and Chelsea bid £1 million for Antoine Semenyo when Bristol City came back and said, we think he's worth a little bit more than that. We can get £2 million out of him. Maurizio Sarri wanted him to play actually for the Chelsea Academy team, and with a vision of him one day breaking into the first team, because he was a highly rated young winger at the time. There was still a lot of interest in him, like I said, from the likes of Manchester United. And Chelsea essentially didn't pay up the £2 million for a winger who is now worth 80 plus probably million. Seems ridiculous, but such is football, and that's the way it goes sometimes you need, as a player, you need that experience. Who knows, if he came into the Chelsea Academy, it might not have worked out. He might not have got those first team opportunities with big names and expensive signings in front of him. He might not have gone on to become the player that he is now. But when you look back on it, it seems crazy that Chelsea wouldn't just pay up the money and kind of give it to them. And it makes you wonder what other kind of players have slipped through the Chelsea net that catches so many young talents and young players over the years that have gone on to do big things for the Blues and elsewhere. Semenyo instead had another short loan spell from Bristol City, this time at Sunderland. Didn't perform overly well, and in came Bournemouth with their incredible scouting network. They actually paid £10 million for Semenyo in the summer. They actually paid £10 million for Semenyo in January 2021, and he pretty much has grown since then into now one of the best wingers in the Premier League. Such a shame to see Chelsea miss out on him, but do you think Chelsea should still go back in for him? Do you think, obviously they've got a number of options now on the left and the right wing. The right wing is probably more secure in terms of they've got Pedro Neto on that side. They've got Esteval coming through. He's been absolutely incredible. Kendry Pires, Cole Palmer can also play on that side. And Giovanni Kenda coming in as well. Next summer, that will be another one of the best young talents in the world. But the left side has been a little more questionable. The signings of Garnacho and Gittins haven't quite come to fruition just yet. Still very early days for them at Chelsea, of course. Gittins, for the England under-21s this week, I went to watch them, was actually really, really good. He was really impressive. So he also was good for Borussia Dortmund, and it will be interesting to see how his career develops at Chelsea. I think he's going to have a big future at the club, and let me know in the comments if you agree with me on that, or if you think Chelsea need to go for a Premier League proven name, the likes of Antoine Semenyo, in the upcoming transfer window. The third segment of the Chelsea Files this week has actually got to be about a non-Chelsea player. Again, Semenyo also not a Chelsea player, but this time it's about the GOAT, for me at least, Lionel Messi. I would have him significantly higher probably than Cristiano Ronaldo. But again, let me know in the comments if you agree with me on that. And that's because Lionel Messi has actually had a few things to do with Chelsea this week. a lot of people have made on Twitter and social media, whatnot, that he loves Chelsea. He's followed the club on Instagram for a while. He does also now follow Manchester City. But one of very few English clubs that he shows an interest in and shows a liking to Chelsea. And the club also apparently under Roman Abramovich tried to sign him back in 2014. But we're not going to talk about that today. You can read more about that on thesun.co.uk/football. Actually, though, Messi this week has chosen 2 Chelsea stars in his top 10 talents of the next generation with Adidas. And those 2 players are Kendry Páez and Andre Santos, both of course, products of the multi-club ownership Strasbourg deal at the moment. Kendry Páez is there right now. He's been performing really well. He's just won the Ligue 1 Young Player of the Month award, so well done to the promising Ecuadorian, another one joining the Chelsea ranks along with Moises Caicedo. And Andre Santos, who played so well at Strasbourg last season, he's come into the frame this season at Chelsea. And whilst he's currently out with an injury, he's had a bit of a mixed start to the season. He's looked really promising in some games, and he's been needed because of the amount of injuries that Chelsea have been getting on with. But yeah, those 2, Andre Santos and Kendry Páez, were chosen by Lionel Messi in his +10 Adidas campaign as the 2 of the brightest talents of the next generation. Also chosen was ex-Cobham boy, Rio Engamoa, who's now been shining at Liverpool. The youngster, the winger, was let go by Chelsea, unfortunately and regrettably, from the club. But they do now have Ryan Cooper-McQueen, who will be getting mentioned in these conversations, surely, in the next few years, coming through the Cobham setup right now. The rest of the list was made up by Messi's Argentine compatriot Nico Paz, as well as Brighton's Brajan Gruda. You wouldn't be surprised to see him being another one of the Brighton to Chelsea pipeline. Our producer Jamie won't like that one. Yeah, he was also mentioned in Messi's list. It would be interesting to see if he does follow the Brighton to Chelsea kind of blue co, bright co pipeline as it's been known. And as well as those, there were Kado Meite, I think his name is pronounced. I'm not too sure on him, to be totally honest. Mika Goetz and Rodrigo Moura from Porto, another really young and exciting player. If you haven't watched him play, 100% would recommend it. He actually does. He shines for the Portugal under-21s along with Giovanni Kenda when they play. And seeing those 2 link up, he's another player I would actually really like to see at Stamford Bridge. He's really exciting, really promising young player. So a good choice from Lionel Messi there. And the last 2 choices come from the women's game. It's Clara Serrajordi of Barcelona and Lily Johan of Lyon, 2 of the top women's teams in the game. No one from the Chelsea ladies team this time. The other thing Messi related we need to talk about is that he's launched his own Messi Cup. This actually wasn't in the Chelsea files, but I thought we'd add it in, as it was a story that came out last night. Tuesday is Wednesday today as we're filming this. You might be watching this a bit later. But yeah, the story is that Messi has launched his own Messi Cup this December, and Chelsea have been invited to play in it alongside Manchester City and some other teams. A lot of Messi's former teams, kind of Barcelona, Newell's Old Boys, and then aside from his former teams, I think River Plate are playing in it, and a bunch of other teams. You can read more about that on the Sun website. But yeah, Chelsea again mentioned alongside Lionel Messi, and this tournament, it will be played in Miami in December. It's for the world's best under-16s teams, and Chelsea will be taking part in that this December. So keep an eye out on social media. I'm sure the Sun will have some sort of coverage of it. Not sure in what capacity that will be exactly, but keep an eye out for that. I'm sure you'll see some of the best young talents, and Lionel Messi, I'm sure, will be in attendance at some point to cover that or to watch that as well. Elsewhere in the Chelsea files, if you want to read them online, we've got a piece on Marc Cucurella, who's been starring for Spain in this international break, and he's spoken out about facing off against Lamine Yamal in the Champions League when Chelsea take on Barcelona in November at Stamford Bridge. There's a few bits in there. Well, couple of funny moments in there and one really wholesome moment from the Legends game that took place at Stamford Bridge. We also discussed that on Chelsea Exposed earlier this week, so make sure if you're watching this that you go and watch that as well. That episode from Monday was a really good one to watch, so make sure you don't miss out on that. And there's also a bit on Cole Palmer in the Chelsea files as well. But that's all we've got time for today. You'll hear from us again on Friday after Enzo Maresca's press conference ahead of the Nottingham Forest game. So make sure you're back here on Friday. And if you don't want to miss any videos, subscribe to the Chelsea Sunsport YouTube channel. Or, I've warned you before, Chelsea will lose to Nottingham Forest if you don't subscribe right now. Hit the like button. Let us know in the comments what you thought of the Chelsea files this week, how we can improve. Let us know what you want to see from us going forward, and we'll do our best to make that happen for you. Thank you very much for watching. Like, subscribe, and goodbye.